Woo! The Steelers have finally gotten a win today, and they are 2-3 after beating the Denver Broncos. What's up, guys? I'm yours truly, yo boy Meatloaf, and I'm here right after the Steelers game is when this is being recorded immediately afterwards. And I'm here to give you my reaction and analysis and takeaway from the Steelers' win against the Denver Broncos. So the game started very similarly to how the Packers game started. Ben Roethlisberger threw a touchdown to Deontay Johnson over 50. This time it was over a 50-yard pass, and that was one of the best throws, if not the best throw I've seen Ben make this entire season. So Deontay Johnson, Ben Roethlisberger starting the game off very well, but the following possession for Pittsburgh afterwards, Ben Roethlisberger, he took the ball was snapped, and he did not let go of the football. Like, he refused to just throw it away or throw it to a receiver or try to run with it himself. He just kind of was scrambling, except he wasn't scrambling. He was just trying to evade pressure, and he would not let go of the ball, even though he had multiple chances to do so. And I think this has been in denial of him being a shell of his former self, because he knows he is. He knows he can play better than what he's played in previous weeks, but he is a shell of his former self, especially running. He has not been able to run well since like 2012. All right, let alone in 2021. But he refused to throw the ball away, and he isn't mobile. He knows damn well that he's a shell of his former self, except he still seems to not care and do that, which results in a fumble, and it was recovered by Alexander Johnson. Broncos would get a field goal off of that turnover. So, but still, 7-3 Steelers at this point. Play calling in this game was overall better. It was very better. I feel this is because I heard that Ben was the person who was calling some of the plays, or he had more of a say in the playbook, and I like that because even though he is a shell of his former self, it seems like, especially last year against the Cowboys game is a good example, whenever Ben calls the plays, our offense experiences more success. There's more variety, and it's not nearly as predictable. But the Broncos, they got the field goal their first drive, like I said, and there was a first down, and then there was by the Steelers, and then there was a run followed by a pass behind the line of scrimmage to Kelvin Ballage. Now, that makes absolutely no sense. All right, this was the Steelers' first field goal drive that they had allowed, the first field goal that they had scored this game, pardon me, and it was 10-3 at this point. Except, how did they do it? Well, they just had a big play, and they decided they were going to run the ball inside zone, didn't get anywhere, and then they had second down and 13. They did a pass behind the line of scrimmage to Kelvin Ballage. First off, why are you pulling Najee Harris for Kelvin Ballage? But that's not even the point. The point is that you threw it behind the line of scrimmage and expected to do something to a running back who's barely in the game and hardly has any experience outside of the preseason. That makes no sense. So it was like they were almost asking for the field goal, and they just basically shot themselves in the foot with that. But even if it was completed, it wouldn't have done anything to help us do absolutely anything to set ourselves up for a manageable third down play or get a first down. And it just seemed like they shot themselves on the foot. But the Broncos, they got the ball back, and there was a delay of game penalty on Javonte Williams, which I think was a BS. He just spiked the ball after almost scoring a touchdown, getting the ball up inside the 2-yard line, and they called that delay of game BS. The play clock didn't even hit 0. He just celebrated. He's allowed to do that. And the Broncos would get a field goal on this drive, making it a 10-6 game. But the thing is, did this penalty impact whether or not the Broncos would have scored a touchdown? And to that, I have no idea what to tell you. I mean, obviously, them being at the 2-yard line over the 7-yard line is the odds of them scoring is much better. But at the same time, they're going up against the Steelers' defense. Actually, on third down and goal on this drive, they ended up sacking Teddy Bridgewater. Excuse me, the second down and goal, they ended up sacking Teddy Bridgewater, setting up for a terrible third down and goal. Couldn't manage that at all, which is why they had to kick the field goal, and Brandon McManus made it. But would they have had a better chance of making a touchdown, scoring a touchdown, if that BS penalty wasn't called? Yes. But could it have happened? We never will know. There's a chance it still couldn't have happened. But even if it did, then the Broncos would have only scored 4 more points, so they still would have had to score that touchdown at the end of the game, which they did not score, and we'll get to that later. But at the end of the day, the defense could have potentially made a goal line stand, so we'll never truly know what would happen or not. It was a BS call nevertheless. But the next drive, Steelers got the football, and Juju Smith-Schuster, he had a run play, designed run play to him, just a little toss to him, and he was tackled very aggressively by Kareem Jackson, and I'm not saying that was a dirty play. It wasn't. It's just, Jackson being aggressive as he should be. He's a defender. And this made Juju injured, and he was out of the remainder of the game, and he looked like he was in serious pain. He's registered as a shoulder or right arm injury, and that's a huge loss for the Steelers. But at the same time, it's not like he was even, a factor, really. And he's not the best receiver on this team. It's definitely either Deontay or Claypool. In my opinion, it's Deontay, except Claypool has more physical gifts than Deontay Johnson. And like I said, Chase Claypool, again, like I was talking about him just a few seconds ago, he was back today. He had an ankle injury last week. He did not play in our loss last week. And we used the middle of the field a lot more, probably because Ben was calling more of the plays. He was allowed to audible. And believe it or not, we got a 50-plus yard reception to Chase Claypool. And that was really a huge momentum booster for the Steelers. And it's just incredible. We use the center of the field like, wow! Whenever you don't throw screen passes and bubble screens and use the edge of the field and immediately try to get out of bounds and only run inside zones, your offense has more variety and you get bigger gains. Wow, who would have guessed that? But even though Ben's declining, he has always made our offense better and less predictable when it comes to the play calling. But yet again, that's not a very hard job considering how terrible our play calling always was. But pretty good play calling today. I don't have much to complain about. But the one thing I do have to complain about on our offensive line, they had probably the best game of their season today. But one man is the culprit, and that is Okafor. Okafor, number 76, our starting right tackle. He has a ton of false starts, and it's just excessive, and I'm very disappointed in him this year. I expected him and Kevin Dotson to take a big leap. Dotson's doing okay, but Okafor not really holding down the fort. The offense was mostly predictable with our run plays, but Najee Harris was able to make it happen, and we definitely gave him the ball a lot more, which is something that is great. I'm very glad that we ran the ball a lot more. We gave Najee Harris more touches that weren't passes behind the line of scrimmage, and they were mostly inside zones, but Najee Harris, he's just so talented that as long as the offensive line isn't utter garbage, he's able to get you somewhere. And I'm very, very happy in his performances so far this year. He's very promising. I really think he could be better than Le'Veon Bell. He won't have the same running style as him, but I really think he could be better than Le'Veon Bell if he keeps this up. But in previous weeks, in the drive before the half, the Steelers usually just kneel it out, except they received the ball with 1 minute and 46 seconds left remaining. And any team in the NFL would at least try to have done something, and the Steelers did. But this is where it gets a little bit weird. So, with 23 seconds left, the Steelers made a play. They weren't really throwing deep balls, but they made a pass that was complete, and they called a timeout, signalizing that, hey, we want to try to score. We don't want this clock to run out. And that was followed up by an inside zone. I know, crazy, inside zone. The only running play we know how to do, basically. We know 2 or 3 of them. To Kelvin Ballage. And we let the clock run out. So tell me, not that it matters, but that's just, are they dumb? Like, why would you call a timeout and follow it up with a running play? That made me a little bit, that was just super weird. But that's just dumb. But we attempted to rush the ball more today, and we didn't just give up and be a pass-first team, which is not what you want. You don't want to be one-dimensional, and especially whenever you have an aging quarterback who, yes, is declining. I think overall, his best performance of the season, in my opinion, was definitely today. He did okay. He was decent. He was serviceable. And other than that one play where he held onto the ball for too long, I can't say that he made a few throws here and there that are a little bit, too high or, too far left, too far right. But still, considering his performances, this was definitely the best one this year, and he was serviceable. And that's probably the best we could ask for him at this point. He improved, and he lived up to playing better like he said he was going to do. He lived up to that at the end of the day, and I'm proud of him for doing so. But we ran the ball more to our very naturally gifted and talented rookie running back. And what do you know? Even though we don't have a good offensive line who probably had their best performance today, but still not a good offensive line and a very young offensive line, Najee Harris rushed for over 100 yards. And guess what this did? What do you know? It made it easier on Ben. It made this entire process easier on Ben Roethlisberger. I believe he threw the ball less than 30 times this game. That's the first time all season. I mean, that is good. He throws the ball less, And he gets very fatigued at this point in his career, and he just is beat up all the time. It seems like he's injured everywhere. And I feel bad for the man, but, it really makes life easier on Ben. And it allowed us to dominate the game, especially until the fourth quarter, in time of possession, which that keeps our defense off of the field, which gives them fresh legs. So that's why you didn't see a ton of huge game-changing plays, and when you did, our defense was able to answer. They were able to stop them and give them the bare minimum. And it's because they weren't on the field for 80% of the game like they were for the rest of the games that we played this year. And it's also why you didn't see any back-breaking plays. It made Ben have to throw less, so it helped them out tremendously. And I'm just very happy about that aspect of the game for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're supposed to be a run, smash-mouth football team. Haven't seen that from them in a very long time. And today I feel like was the game where if I could pick one game out of the past 2 years that they look like the old and true Pittsburgh Steelers, it would be today, because running the football came first. It opened up the passing game. We already have good receivers and a quarterback today who was serviceable. He did not make too many mistakes. And at the end of the day, he did what he had to do. And he had the best game of his season, if you ask me. And I don't think anyone's going to argue with that. But this just, overall, it gave the team more momentum. It was like a confidence booster. I love what we did today in the ground game. Very, very happy about that. And our offensive line played okay as well, so that's good. But, wow, at the end of the day, end of the third quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter, Najee Harris was in pain. He was in pain, and I am scared. He did not return for the rest of the game after the second time in the fourth quarter. And I am scared because it didn't look terrible, but if this is going to slow Najee down, Lord help us, because Ben cannot throw the ball 50 times a game. And even if our offensive line somehow plays well, I just don't see our running backs gaining any yardage. Benny Snell's he's all right, But Benny Snell, Kelvin Ballage, Anthony McFarland, and Jalen Samuels, whoever they have running the football, doesn't matter. They're not going to be able to rush for a ton of yards. They're not going to be able to break tackles and fall forward like Najee Harris can. They're not going to be able to catch balls, as you saw by Benny Snell. Whoops! I dropped the ball. I get you're a running back. But my goodness, 2nd down and 8, right in your hands. You're looking right at the ball. Just catch it. I could have caught that pass. I'm fully confident in that. And I don't even play football. But they're not going to be able to rush at all, let alone for 100 yards. And Ben is just going to be massacred if that's the case. The only way we're going to be able to truly turn this season around, and that day could have been today. I'm not saying it is or it isn't, but if this season is turned around, today is definitely the start of that. But if we're going to do that, we cannot have Ben throwing the ball 50 times a game, and we can't be one-dimensional. You saw what happened when we did that last year. It's going to be even worse this year, and that's what you saw in the game against, say, the Bengals. But it was so refreshing to see our offense not looking terrible. And I believe that that's a result of the natural talent and ability and skill and just hard work and effort that Najee Harris has put in. And he got so much more carries today. And Ben having a say in the play calling, I believe, also affected our offensive production, not looking like utter garbage today. We had great games by Chase Claypool. He went for over 130 yards. And Deontay Johnson only had 2 catches, but they were for 72 yards. 2 of the biggest catches of the game. And that was just spectacular. Great game by both of them. James Washington was out with a groin injury, which honestly, there has been so many groin injuries. There has to be something going on with the strength and conditioning coach. That is literally the only explanation I can come up for it. It's not a coincidence. Whenever you have 15 players or something around that number be out for a long period of time or be out for a game or even just be listed as questionable and still play because of a groin injury, take care of your groins. All right? Take care of your groins. And your groins will take care of you. That's the slogan that the Steelers need to have inside of their locker room, other than the fact, the standard is the standard, which is a very cool sign. But, man, is that overused, and it's been used as an excuse so many times. But at the end of the day, the Steelers get the win, but it was way too close. They're up by 24-6 at some point, and Najee went out, and what do you know? Our offense couldn't do much. They went down and scored a field goal when they had to, but Najee came out. The offense was certainly one-dimensional. They were able to survive that one drive, but I just feel like that was a fluke, and that was just great play by our receivers and Ben coming up clutch, because he still, every now and then, has that accolade. He had that accolade and that ability against the Bills, and he had it again today. but we have to have Najee back. If he misses next week, I don't think we're going to win. I think we can win, especially since it's Geno Smith playing and not Russell Wilson. Even though right now I'd rather have Geno Smith than Ben Roethlisberger. That's not to discredit what he did today. I don't see him performing this way every single game the rest of the year. I certainly hope he can, and I certainly hope that his worst days this year are behind him. But at the end of the day, I mean, I'd rather have Geno Smith this year than Ben Roethlisberger just off of the way Geno Smith played on the Thursday Night Football game. Which, by the way, Freddie Swain was pushed down in that game. He was pushed down, and then it was intercepted. I don't get that. I agree with Geno Smith on that. He was pushed down. Like, that's why it was intercepted, and no one said anything about it. That was disappointing. I felt bad for the man. Both of them, Geno Smith and Freddie Swain, the entire Seahawks organization. We can win next week, but I'll get to that later. But the Steelers were up 24-6 at one point. They gave up a touchdown to Cortland Sutton. Pretty big play, disappointing. Reminded me of the Jamar Chase play 2 weeks ago with his first touchdown that went for over 40-plus yards. And so that made the score 24-13, except then the Broncos stopped the Steelers. They got the ball back, and what do? They went down, and they scored another touchdown. All right? They scored another touchdown. But thank goodness they missed the 2-point conversion. So they had to score a touchdown. And at the end of the day, whenever they started driving down the field, but don't worry, because the Steelers defense came up clutch like they usually do. James Pierre with the pick on 4th down and goal. But the fact that this game even came down to a 4th down and goal is extremely disappointing. That should not have happened. Because 4th down and goal, man, that's too risky. I mean, this game should not have came down to a 4th down and goal. I don't care what you tell me. At the end of the day, a win's a win. I'm taking it. And the Steelers played well today overall, but that was too close. That was too close of a game. It should not have been that close. It reminded me of the game last year against the Broncos. We were winning by a lot, and we only won that game by about 6 points. So definitely a very good game, very entertaining game of football, but the Steelers were able to come out with the win. And they are back on track. They finally have another win, their first one of the month. And hopefully, unlike last month, they're able to get more than one win this month. Preferably all the rest of their games they have this month would be great, but at least another one if they want to make the playoffs. And even if they do, let's be real, they're not making the Super Bowl. And technically, losing out is the best thing this organization do. But I love football. I do not want to see my team tank. And I don't care if it's for the betterment of our future. I just want to see my favorite team win for the love of football. I don't care about what everyone on ESPN is saying about how, all we have to do is this and that and just lose out. No. That's not what the Steelers do. That's not what I want to see them do. And I think they have a chance to make the playoffs. I don't think they will, but if they can get the run game going like they did today, they can maybe go 9-8. It probably won't be good enough in the AFC, but at the end of the day, we have absolutely no idea if that's going to be good enough or not, and that's just the reality. But 9-8 this season, that's what I predicted them to be, 9-8, 10-7, but I wouldn't predict that now. But could happen. There's a chance now. I have some hope after what I saw today. But we just have to be able to finish out games and not make it so we are sitting here and barely winning whenever we're winning by 3 possessions at some point in the game. But talking about next game, Sunday Night Football against Geno Smith and the Seattle Seahawks. Russell Wilson won't be playing for probably at least a month because of his injury that he suffered on Thursday Night Football. Wishing him well and a speedy recovery, nevertheless. But we're playing Geno Smith, who, yes, this year does look better than Ben, not to discredit his performance, but obviously anyone would rather play Geno Smith than Russell Wilson. That's a very fair statement, very fair assessment, and that's just something that any man with a brain is going to be able to say, oh yeah, we obviously would rather play Geno Smith than Russell Wilson. But they have an explosive offense still, and that could still easily come off next week. But let's just say we win, we go 3-3, and we go into our bye at 3-3. Considering how we looked against our past 3 games, other than this game, especially against the Bengals, That is huge. It's like a full reset on the season. If they were to win more than they lose just by one game and go 6-5, and they have a hard schedule. But if they were to go 6-5 the rest of the way, they'd go 9-8. Could they make the playoffs? Maybe. If they go 10-7, maybe. 11-6, I think could definitely get the job done. Why? Because the AFC West has stacked teams. The Broncos could still make the playoffs. I think they're the worst team in that division, but they could do it. Raiders can make the playoffs. Chiefs are going to make the playoffs, even though their defense has been disappointing. Chargers, they could definitely make the playoffs. They could maybe even take that division the way it looks, and so could the Raiders, but it's either going to be the Chiefs or the Chargers at the end of the day, in my opinion. But like I said, if they can just win one more game then they lost the rest of the way if they end up beating Geno Smith and the Seahawks in Sunday Night Football, in Heinz Field, by the way, then they would be 9-8, and that could potentially give them a playoff spot, but it would definitely be respectable. Although, when it comes to the draft order and the future of our team, that would probably be the worst possible scenario, especially if you don't even make the playoffs and it's not even worth it. Even if you did, I don't see this team going far in the playoffs. As much as I love them, I'm also realistic. If they do find a way to make it, I don't see them going very far. Maybe win one game, but that's probably being very optimistic, and I honestly don't even see that happening. But, great pick by James Pierre to win the game, but it's a win. A win's a win. I don't care how it happens. We won. We're back in the win column. We're 2-3 going into next week, Sunday Night Football against the Seahawks. Then we go to our bye week, and then after that, we play a division rival in the Cleveland Browns, a team that beat us last year. But the Steelers look a heck of a lot better on offense. Pretty solid on defense, but they need to learn to close out games and not make it so I get a heart attack every single game. With that being said, I'm your boy Meatloaf, and oh man, the Steelers finally won. Bengals lost, and right now the Browns are playing. They're losing 3-0 as we speak, and the Ravens play Monday nights. So, Steelers on 3. Here we go on 6. 1, 2, 3 Steelers. 4, 5, 6. Here we go. Let's go, guys. Back in the win column, baby. Way to go.